The Interpreters Toolbox is full of life experiences. Tech, food, business, language. It's about life. It's not just about the deaf and hard of hearing community. It's time to open up and experience the Interpreters Toolbox. Hi everyone, I'm Mike Wilkerson from the Interpreter Toolbox podcast. Everyone has been asking me over the last month or so, what is that Interpreter Toolbox podcast? What is that? Well, really what it all comes down to is that it's 8 different segments that I'll be using for the next series of, hopefully, years to help educate everybody. Not only the hearing people, not only the new interpreter, but also everybody. The hearing, the deaf, the hard of hearing, everybody. And how I'll be doing that is I'll be using 8 different segments. The first is called Social Vocabulary. Social vocabulary will focus on things around the house, outside, inside of towns, all kinds of different vocabulary that will help people understand the sign language and how it associates with different vocabulary in different settings. That's social vocabulary. It should be very cool. The second segment is called Business Vocabulary. It's my absolute favorite segment that we'll feature here on the Interpreter Toolbox podcast. And the reason is because we're going to go and visit different businesses and organizations, and we're going to see firsthand what happens inside of their businesses. But also we're going to learn about the vocabulary and the situations inside of their business. So suppose there's an interpreter there inside that business. We'll be able to see how they operate, the vocabulary words that are used inside of their situation. And everybody will learn about that business, but also the sign language vocabulary in that situation. That's business vocabulary from the Interpreter Toolbox podcast. The third one is called the Quick Review. And for all of the interpreters listening right now, it's going to be the perfect sample situation for you to watch and learn more, but also provide voice. You'll actually have great samples of sign language that you can provide voice for. Finally, the opportunity to train and learn more about voicing. Ha! How perfect is that? The fourth one is product review. I have been reviewing technology for a long time now, and now I'll be providing it not only with the great detail and the regularity, but also with sign language. There are thousands of people on the internet right now who use all kinds of technology, product review for whatever purpose, but none has sign language. I'll be the only one. How cool is that? So that's product review, and that's from the Interpreter Toolbox podcast soon as the months go by. The next one is the event focus. There are so many events here in St. Louis area that focus on the deaf and the hard of hearing. There are so many other events that the deaf and hard of hearing could go to if they knew that they were going on. So knowing about those events and including them into the deaf and hard of hearing listing of events is going to help everybody. Why? Because we'll be helping the interpreting companies because they'll know about events that someone will want an interpreter provided for. But we'll also be helping the deaf and hard of hearing community. Why? Because you'll know about more events that will help you succeed. How cool is that? So that's event focus. Also remember that if you have an event that you want to add to the listing, make sure you check out the website at interpretertoolbox.com and add that event into that listing. We'll be happy to add it, and then we'll contact you to make sure that it's all approved. The next one is a segment that is another one that I think is just going to be outstanding. It's called the I Wish I Knew Sign Language segment. And the reason is because every time I have people visit my house, they'll come in my house, they'll meet my wife, who is deaf, and then they'll chat and feel awkward and uncomfortable, and it's because my wife is deaf and they can't converse with her. So they'll try and use me as an interpreter in that situation, and that's fine, I don't mind. But every time they leave, they always walk up to me and they tell me, I wish I knew sign language. Well, now you're going to be able to learn sign language from me regularly in short segments talking about vocabulary, deaf and hard of hearing, cultural situations. All of that is going to be provided here at the Interpreter Toolbox podcast for all of you. If you have a situation or a deaf culture influence item that you want included that I can showcase here, make sure you contact me at our website at interpretertoolbox.com. The next one, the seventh one, is talking with your mouth full. It's a lesson everyone has learned since they were just a kid. Never talk with your mouth full, unless you're deaf. So what we're going to do is I'm going to review all kinds of food and sandwiches and the whole litany. The goal, however, is to provide it with no voice at all, but sign language only. So again, it's a great opportunity for all of the interpreters to learn more about watching and voicing for someone who literally is not using their voice at all. They're only providing sign because my mouth will be full. The last one is a great one, and one that really has special significance for me, and it's the focus on schools. During my time as an interpreter, I spent a lot of time in schools, everything from kindergarten to the highest levels of college interpreting. Everything. It was a great experience for me because I learned so much during those years. The best part is that still, many people don't understand how interpreter is used inside the school systems. And so I will be visiting a variety of school systems here in St. Louis and the Kansas City areas and anywhere else that you ask me to go. I'm going to go and I'm going to showcase how they use interpreters in those systems, but also providing you how all of those things benefit the people involved, the deaf people, the school itself, but also the vocabulary and the sign language used inside of those situations. So again, so much is going to happen with the Interpreter Toolbox podcast in regard to education, in regard to showcasing the deaf and hard of hearing community, but most importantly, everyone becoming educated more about the deaf and the hard of hearing and the hearing all melding together to bridge the cultures and make them all one. So I hope you'll come back and watch more of the Interpreter Toolbox podcast here with me, Mike Wilkerson, from Two Guys Talking. Thanks for watching, and I hope to hear from you. Again, my thanks to Sprint's Relay Missouri for sponsoring this podcast. And if you're interested in providing sponsorship to this podcast, make sure you check out the website at interpretertoolbox.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching the Interpreter's Toolbox. For more great information about interpreting life and to check out our growing listing of sponsors, check out interpreterstoolbox.com.